So I think we can start off, Alice, since
Yes, we can.
we spend at least 10 minutes trying to figure that out. But don't worry, the next time it will be smoother. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome to this conversation on personal branding strategies for the workplace, for the working professional. My name is Marianne Somba, and I love a good career conversation. I am a career development practitioner as well as the co-founder of Career Kickstart, which is an organization that works with early to intermediate professionals to help them navigate the careers landscape and design a career that they love. And I'm really excited for this conversation because every time I have a conversation with Alice, I have so much to learn. As much as I'm in the career development space, she's always dropping nuggets. So I'm excited to hear and to learn from her, and also from us here in the room. Karibu sana, Alice. You can introduce
Thank you
yourself.
very much, Marianne.
Yeah.
So nice to see you again. It's been a good, how long? I think it's been 1 month since we last spoke. I know we spoke on a regular since we did this. So I'm excited to be in this conversation again. My name is Alice Ngatia. For those who are new to me, I am a marketing and communications professional by day and personal branding strategist by night. And there's a lot of similarities in those two roles. In fact, I was explaining to somebody today, the only difference is in the morning between 8 and 5, I'm branding organizations. And after 5, I am branding people. So that's my day job. I've been doing this for about 15 years. Recently got into the personal branding space, but there's a lot that the two overlap.
Yeah.
And
I really like your. I stalk you as well, as much as we talk. I like the beginning of your LinkedIn summary, which is, I think it's brands. Let me just read it so that I say bringing brands to life is what I love to do. And I think one of the things that I enjoy about being in the space I'm in is seeing people who love what they do. Yeah, because it's actually a blessing and it's not very common. So I'm excited for what this conversation holds and just to learn from you. So today we're going to be talking about personal branding, yeah, and specifically in the context of the working professional. And why we felt this was important is because many times personal branding is spoken in the outside the workplace, in an outside the workplace context. But how can you brand yourself in the space that you are already in? And if you think about it, and if I think about it, that's where it should start. It should start where I'm at. So we're going to be, we went out and we looked at some of the questions people are asking, and we're going to be answering some of those questions. But I do encourage you that as the conversation is going on, please feel free to share your question on chat, and I will put it on the screen, and then we can go from there. All right. So the first question, Alice, is why is it important to build your brand in the workplace?
Such a loaded question and a very important question. And for me, the reason that you need to embrace personal branding in the workplace is because the workplace is changing at such a fast rate. It's amazing. Gone are the days, our parents would be in the same work environment for 15, 20 years and still probably be going up the ranks over time. Now you find that every other day you're hearing in the news that organizations are letting go of employees. Now, what that means is, or even if the organization is not retrenching for some reason or another, imagine a scenario where maybe you had a rapport with the boss that you're working with, and then maybe your boss gets promoted to a new department, or your boss leaves the organization for greener pastures. You might have thrived so well under your boss, but now it's almost like you have to start over again. Each time you're placing yourself, you have to prove yourself to the next person and to the next person. So whether it's a layoff or whether it's a new change of regime in terms of the workplace, you don't need to keep proving yourself. And that's why it's important to consider personal branding in the workplace. What I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
correct is this: you don't have to be changing jobs to embrace personal branding. It's not about, oh, I'm tired with this new, or I've done this, I'm done with my employer. Oh, they are like this, they're like that. Sometimes you could be in the space you're in, but you just need not to be more to own yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, that's a very important thing to do. Personal branding is
Yeah.
important, whether no matter where, no matter which space you're in, whether you're in early career, mid career, in
Mm.
the employment, happy in your job. In fact, those are the guys that probably would benefit the most from personal branding, because then what it
Yeah.
helps you to, you'll be able to, in case of a boss change, or in case a new guy comes to your department, and you don't have to keep explaining yourself, because already the results are speaking for themselves. And that's
Mm.
what we aim with personal brand. And
Mm.
that's why it's very important for a working
Mm.
professional to develop their
Mm.
personal brand.
Yeah, yeah. So if I hear you correctly, you're saying that it's about ensuring that the people who and probably you're going to talk about this, your target audience, they know who you are. And your target audience, I guess you should also define who that is, because it can't just be your boss and the people in your
Department.
department. Yeah. So
Mm.
defining for yourself who needs to know about me, about my skills, about what I'm able to offer, and do they know? So I think that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, so your stakeholders are very, very important in the organization. So the
Mm.
mistake that we make as working professionals is we
Mm.
assume it ends in the department. My boss is happy, I'm done. But your
Mm.
stakeholders need to go beyond that
Mm.
small inner circle, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
first thing that you must do
Mm.
when looking at your working environment is
Mm-hmm.
consider the, 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 the brand, the company that you work for,
Yeah.
and the values that they have,
Yeah.
and are those values aligning to your
Yeah.
values?
Yeah.
If, for example, uh, honesty is a big thing for you, and you work
Yeah.
for an organization that doesn't take honesty too seriously, then of
Yeah.
course you'll be conflicted no matter what you do. You could give yourself
Mm.
100%, but they'll reach points that you will always be at loggerheads because you'll not
Yeah.
be aligned with your organization. So the first thing
Mm.
that is, you have to figure, you have to understand what that organization stands for.
Mm.
Then look at yourself and what you want to stand for. What drives me as Alice? Is
Mm.
it aligned to what drives the organization as well?
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
that is what we don't do as employers. As Ingine, most of the times we want a job, and the
Mm.
first job that comes,
Yeah.
uh, we will run with it, which is
Yeah.
okay. Sometimes we
Yeah.
have to, maybe to survive. That is life. But I
Yeah.
think as you grow in your career, as you try and build your experiences, and even
Mm.
as you move company to company,
Mm-hmm.
look beyond the salary
Yeah.
and look at other things. Look at what in this organization, what keeps people in this organization going,
Yeah.
and will I
Yeah.
fit in? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And then once those two are synced, they have to be
Yeah.
synced. Once those two are synced, then it's easier to say, let's look at who are my stakeholders.
Mm.
So of course, your boss is number one. Do
Mm.
the Your boss, all they are the ones who are doing your performance appraisal anyway. If you decide they're
Yeah.
not your stakeholder, I don't know what you're doing to yourself. You
Yeah.
have to look at the department, because those are the guys that you're
Mm.
always interacting with. So your close
Yeah.
department, those are your number one allies. They'll probably be the one to speak for you when you're not
Mm.
there, or to recommend you
Mm.
for for opportunities that come
Yeah.
outside the organization or within the organization. And then
Yeah.
you also have to look at, when I look at my
Mm.
career, as I want to
Mm.
grow in my career, either these are the people that I want to be. So because people have to speak for you, and for people to speak for you,
Mm.
for you to be believable, the people speaking for you have to be more than your close allies in your department.
Mm.
You have these other external stakeholders that you either deal with on a regular basis, or
Mm.
that you intend to be in that line. At some point, when you look at your career, you're thinking that's the line I want to go to, and therefore those
Yeah.
are the guys I probably will be working with. So those
Yeah.
form part of stakeholders. Maybe not
Mm.
immediate, but you need to start doing things to bring
Yeah.
in yourself into their limelight. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to figure out who your stakeholders are, and then
Mm.
now start. You have to be deliberate in your connections. Once you
Yeah.
figure them out, if you don't have a direct connection with any of them, ask around. Maybe somebody in your department that has, maybe one of your boss's colleagues, you
Mm.
know. So
Mm.
really ask around, start engaging with them, start
Yeah.
demonstrating what you can do, the capabilities that you can bring to the table, and what you can do for them.
Yeah.
Don't go with this mindset of, now that I've mapped my career, I know I want a promotion. Let me go to
Mm.
Marianne. Marianne will give me that promotion. Marianne will
Yeah.
sweep you out like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always
Yeah.
say, figure out what is Marianne's pain point. Of your
Mm.
stakeholders, somebody has got to have a pain point that you
Yeah.
can fulfill for them.
Yeah.
Then when the time comes, they will
Mm.
speak for you.
Yeah.
When the time,
Yeah.
when some people are having a boardroom meeting and they need to, somebody will say, by the way, Alice can do that. By the way, Alice has, they probably have never seen you do that, but they believe
Mm.
that you have the potential to deliver.
Yeah.
Because you've
Yeah.
delivered in other spaces that may not be necessarily within your scope or within your
Yes.
KPI.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. And I guess the question from that is, Alice, who is speaking for you in the rooms that you don't have access to? Who is speaking for you? So I think that's another key thing to think through when you're thinking about your personal branding. All right, thank you so
Mm.
much. You can see people are still joining. Karibu, Global Justice, Jeffrey, um, Karibu San. I hope you can hear us. If you can't, please just let us know in chat and we will fix that. All right, so on to the second question. And as you're speaking, please feel free to share your thoughts, your insights, and your questions concerning personal branding in the workplace. So the second question is, what do I need to do? How can I now align my brand in the workplace? So you said all these good things, Alice, and they're amazing, and I believe you. So what next?
So I think the once you figure your stakeholders, that's the most important thing.
Mm,
You once you figure who you need to be connected to, and then
mm,
you need to start doing the work.
yeah.
So the unfortunate thing about being a working professional is
Mm,
we tend to think that I'll come to the office, I'll do my job, I'll dedicate my day, I'll deliver, and then I'll
mm,
go home, and
yeah.
hopefully whatever work I'll have submitted, or maybe submitted even through your boss,
Mm-hmm.
will speak for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Once in a while, make a point of speaking out and saying, so I did this job. What did you think about it?
mm,
Or once you figure out Marianne's pain point,
mm,
offer to elevate it, offer to take it out for her.
mm,
Offer to
mm,
do something that will help Marianne or any of your
mm,
stakeholders in their
mm,
fulfill their careers. But make your stakeholders look good.
mm. Yeah.
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 And then I think the most important and the basic rule of
Mm,
of thriving in the workplace.
mm.
And this is not about it's not about kissing ass per
Yeah.
se.
Yeah.
I was looking for another word for that word. That is what we are likely to be told. That,
Yeah.
oh, well,
Yeah.
that one is always like this. They are
Yeah.
bootlickers. They're there, and we don't like them. We don't
Yeah.
like them because
Yeah.
and the difference is most bootlickers will go and tell bile about the other person. They'll
Yeah.
probably be stepping on other people to move up,
Yeah.
but you are opting to use your uniqueness and your expertise
Yeah.
to grow. So once you map your stakeholders, the
Mm,
second thing that you must do, and that's another very important thing, is you
mm-hmm.
have to stay up to date with what's happening in the industry. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Now, even if I'm looking to promote you and and what you know used to serve the company 10 years ago,
Mm,
sorry, but I love you very much, but you're not fit for whatever we've planned for you ahead.
yeah. Yeah.
If you're not
Yeah.
looking like you're up to date with what's happening
Yeah.
in the industry, even maybe when you're asked about, there was some news about what happened in relation to what you do, but you're clueless.
Yeah.
All those things will impact how you look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
other very key thing when it comes to personal branding is about learning. You
Yeah.
always have to be a student as an individual.
Mm.
If you reach a point where you say, I have learned enough,
Mm.
unfortunately, that is a point where you start deteriorating as an individual. So
Yeah.
be up with your industry, because nobody
Mm.
will want to take somebody who has obsolete uh, knowledge in them.
Mm.
There's nothing you bring to the table that will add
Yeah.
value. And the
Yeah.
aim of anything in the organization is to
Yeah.
add value. So
Yeah.
if you're not seen as a person who will add value,
Mm.
won't be helped. You
Yeah.
can't be taken seriously when the time
Yeah.
comes. So
Yeah.
find people to speak for you, and please be relevant with what you need to with. Find people to speak for you. Find pain points that you can help elevate for your stakeholders. Be
Mm-hmm.
relevant for them, and then
Mm.
be up to date with what's
Mm.
happening in your industry where you want to
Yeah.
be. Yes.
Yeah. 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 And I think that reminds me of a conversation we were having. I think like 2 months ago in our career community, and we were talking about so who gets promoted? Yeah, is it the person who's the best at the job really? Because it seems that from people's experiences, that's not the case. It's not just about sitting down on your desk and being great at your job. There are many people who can do your job the same way you're doing them, you're doing it, but it seems that there's more that's needed. And I think that's what you're talking about, yeah.
Mm.
Understanding the pain of your stakeholder, because sometimes I, I think we misunderstand their pain. So maybe for your manager, you feel like a pain for them would be producing a certain document when it's maybe the on time, and the pain point for them is really how the document is communicated. So
Mm.
they're not even so much about like making sure it's on time. So you send work on time every time, but it's not communicating the way they want it to be communicated, maybe to the client or to the whoever it is. So understanding what is your stakeholders pain, and then working towards relieving that pain, yeah, for the good of your career, for your own good. Because sometimes I think when we say that, we feel like, is my work just to make other people happy? No, you're thinking about your career in the long term. Yeah. All right.
And
Um.
when you do that, by the way, that's how you need to be very clear with what
Mm,
you, as an individual, what you want to stand for.
yeah.
Because when you start doing that, it needs to take, it will take moments when you will say no. And in fact,
Yeah.
like this I wrote about saying no, because it's very, very important to also say no. Because what
Yeah.
happens, if you start taking, because you want to be seen as this person who delivers,
Mm,
you'll become overworked, and then over time you start getting this all these stories that we are hearing about people who are mentally fatigued and all that
yeah.
struggling. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
that. So you have
Yeah.
to be clear, this is what I'm aiming for, and
Yeah.
therefore anything outside these boundaries that doesn't fit my space, you have
Mm,
to be able to say no. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Okay. So third question is, I feel stuck. Let's actually maybe let's go back to how then do I align my brand to the workplace, because I feel we haven't really answered that question.
um I think it's more about introspection. If you
Mm,
ask me, it's about when you look deep within yourself, there's
mm,
those things that are very important for you, and you know you
yeah.
don't want to compromise. You need
Yeah.
to vocalize them. The thing is,
Yeah.
we have not written them down or spoken them to ourselves, so we
Yeah.
don't think we know. But
Yeah.
I think when you sit with yourself for about some few hours, when you just introspect and have a meeting with yourself, you will
Mm-hmm.
figure what is important, what you really
Yeah.
value as an
Yeah.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
that can take that it actually does take a lot of time, and you're
Mm.
never really finished. You can't say you sat on it, say for half a day, and
Yeah.
expect to be really, really finished. It's something you
Yeah.
have to thinking about marinating over it, and
Yeah.
saying, even
Yeah.
when you say, and even when you shortlist your top three, five values,
Mm.
prioritize them so that you know. For
Mm-hmm.
me, uh, honesty maybe comes before uh, honesty comes before what? Comradeship. Maybe I love
Yeah.
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, because so that you can be very, very clear on, in the
Mm-hmm.
event I'm in a place where I'm conflicted, which
Yeah.
value takes
Yeah.
precedence, so therefore which do I pick
Yeah.
first?
Mm.
Yeah. So to answer that question, I think there's no easy answer. You really
Yeah.
have to you have to go
Yeah.
in, because the
Mm.
organization has gone and decided that the organization knows what it stands for. And even when you come
Mm.
to the organization, you find a certain culture that's there. Yeah, so some
Yeah.
things are not on paper, but the culture
Yeah.
that's existing in the organization,
Mm.
as even as you do research and all the
Mm.
culture that exists in tells you what the
Yeah.
organization values. Yeah,
Yeah.
what they value and
Yeah.
what they value. So when you
Yeah.
look at yourself and what you've prioritized as your most important, say, one, two values, versus
Mm.
what is most important to the organization,
Mm.
if you find a lot of them are crisscrossing,
Yeah.
I would say you're probably not in the right fit. And
Mm.
even when you rise in such an organization, it will reach a point that you'll probably feel pinched, or
Mm.
you'll either feel the need to be you'll either be pushed out because you don't
Yeah.
fit. Yeah,
Mm.
because sometimes the organization will push you out, or
Yeah.
you'll find yourself pulling out by yourself.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
And I think onto that point of introspection, I'd like to ask Alice, in addition to values, what other elements in your personal brand should you consider?
For me, the most important that I think the two that are most important are
Mm-hmm.
the values
Mm-hmm.
and the vision, where you want to
Mm.
go,
Mm.
because you have to have a direction as to where you want to go. Because if you
Yeah.
don't know where you want to go, you could be you could be thinking you're moving, but you're circling
Yeah.
uh, some place, not
Yeah.
going anywhere, spending a lot of energy doing a lot of nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One,
Yeah.
you have to be clear on
Yeah.
your goal as a
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
Mm.
And then the
Yeah.
second thing is your values. The
Mm.
third one, that when I hear some people, they talk about purpose or what fulfills you and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but the only reason I haven't put such emphasis on purpose is because
Mm.
I find there's a lot of confusion around this word purpose. When you tell
Mm.
people purpose, they tend to assume you should be like a Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
No, that's purpose. I'm living like this. I'm giving to the community, but I want to feel like I'm living a purposeful life in my career.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think people can. I think you
Yeah.
can still impact people with
Yeah.
purpose in your
Mm.
career. Yeah. So
Mm.
for me, I would
Mm.
say the values, I would give precedence to values
Hello,
and where you
Alice.
want to go. You can't hear me?
We're having a problem with the connection.
Am I back now? Can you hear me?
Mm. Yes. Yes. We're back now. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure what happened. So I don't know where
Mm.
you lost me, but I tend to think you can have purpose in your day to day, in your career.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to say, you could be a doctor who loves treating people and you love it so much. I'm a marketer. I
Mm.
love what I do.
Yeah.
So that's why I've never given much emphasis
On the
to
purpose
purpose,
bit.
on the
Yeah.
purpose space. For me, I would say values and the goals
And the
that you're
goals.
heading.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's also important because it's very similar to the process of career planning that you have to start with the introspection part. Because I think people are they come in and they're very excited about, personal branding, about career planning, about all these things. But you have to start with the inner work first. Yeah. So actually, when I go and brand myself out there, what am I branding myself as? Because you could go and understand your stakeholders pain points, you could go and be in the right spaces, you can go out there, but what are you going to say? Is it going to be a cohesive story that you're telling? And that's another very important part. You don't want to be saying one thing one day, something extremely opposite the next day. You need to sit with yourself and understand, okay, what's my vision when it comes to my career? What pains am I solving even before I go and solve my
Mm.
understand what my stakeholders' pains are. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I like that because it's very aligned with the career planning process, beginning with introspection. All right, thank you. Then the next question we have is: I feel stagnated. How can you help me build my brand for the better?
So most people come into this is a question by the way I've had with many guys,
Yeah.
and they feel they need a personal brand now because they're stagnated, so therefore they need to, and it
Mm,
becomes, and I think it stems from the confusion that personal branding is all about being visible, shouting, etc.
yeah.
But what I say, I like to give a story around this. Now,
Mm-hmm.
imagine there's a garden of wonderful flowers, and
Yeah.
there's one flower that's withered. If I'm coming to pick roses for somebody, I'm taking roses to
Mm,
a friend, a dear friend who's celebrating a birthday, will I
yeah.
pick one of the withered roses? No, I will not. You'll
Yeah.
probably still be left in the shamba, doing what you do, hating what you do, looking as
Yeah.
withered as you are.
Mm,
So, based on that analogy, this is what I
mm,
say. Anybody
mm,
coming to me is
mm,
first flourish in that environment.
mm,
Find a way that as you are in that environment,
mm,
flourish, grow, do what you need to do to be
mm,
the best in that
mm.
so-called boring position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because what makes you think, because, and even when you think about it logically, even if you start job hunting,
Mm,
the prospective employer will call the current employer boss, and if they find you in the withered state,
mm,
probably the reason why you will not move.
yeah.
If they
Yeah.
find you
Yeah.
in a state where your boss is thinking, I have more baggage than a
Mm,
resource,
yeah.
then they will not, because most bosses, by the way, you find that if you build rapport with your boss, they're very happy to recommend you to grow either to bigger roles in the organization.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. But by the
yeah.
time you're doing this, you've either identified prospects in the organization, you've synced in the organization, you think this is a good organization for you, and therefore
Mm-hmm.
you are looking to either grow bigger into the
Mm-hmm.
organization. Now,
Yeah.
if your boss feels you're like that with that plant,
Yeah.
if the other stakeholders or people who you feel would should be your allies look at
Mm-hmm.
you and see with that plant,
Mm,
it becomes harder.
yeah.
It becomes very much harder.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what will happen, by the way? Then you will
Mm,
start going online because what people
mm,
do is, oh, I'll start shouting online, I'll start.
yeah.
Shouting online and you will get tired. I promise you, I've seen this.
Mm,
You'll get tired after 3, 4 months
yeah.
because this takes time. Nobody should lie
Mm,
to anyone that it does not take time. So it's
mm,
going some time to get
mm,
to a place where that maybe the industry can take you with seriousness, because sometimes you can move, but then you can move for a lateral, maybe lower grade or something, and that's not
mm,
what any human wants. Yeah.
mm, mm,
Yeah. So everybody, I'm sure, even as they come to you for career advice, everybody's coming and
mm.
saying, I want to move, the next big thing, the next big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my biggest advice is, as where as you are, flourish. So start watering your ground so that, like
Mm,
right now, I've noticed it's only taken like 2 days of rain.
mm,
What is so brown
mm,
is now turning to be green. That's
Yeah.
the power of rain. So what's
Yeah.
the rain?
Mm.
What would you term as rain for
Mm.
your workplace, for
Mm.
your role?
Mm.
Start doing that. Start pouring the water into your ground so that you
Yeah.
can flourish, and then do the
Yeah.
process first.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like that because it like you're saying, it's very similar to the process of because it's I think generally it's a career question. And you can't how would I say it? Put elastoplast and I like the analogy you've used. But put
Mm.
elastoplast on like a broken leg. Yeah, it's not going to heal
Mhm.
it. You need to first figure out, first of all, what's causing you to be stagnant. How can you fix that? What can you do? What's your rain? Yeah, what can help you to flourish in that environment, even as you look for the next steps for you. So I like that answer, Alice. Thank you.
And by the way, you'll
Um,
notice as soon as
mm,
your
yeah,
attitude towards your environment starts to change,
yeah,
the attitude of those around you starts to change.
mm,
And soon you might even find
mm,
it is there. You even when you ask for, you may not even have needed a promotion. Maybe all you needed was a pay rise. You'll
mm,
find that even when you ask for a pay rise from your boss, they're thinking,
yeah,
yes, I can give you, or I'll fight for you. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm actually
Find your rain. Find your rain.
yes, that's true. Yeah. And I've actually experienced such things where someone really wanted to move, but then
Mm.
something was changed in the engagement that they had. They're like, no, I want to stay. I
You
want to
want to
stay.
stay. Mm.
Okay. So then one of the other questions we have is, from an employer perspective, why is it important for your employees to be online?
Because the world is changing. I think that's the simplest of things. You know,
Mm,
before you'd go, you'd put your salespeople, you give them
mm-hmm.
phone, tell them call,
Yeah.
call, call, call. Some would
Yeah.
answer, but nowadays the first thing you do is no, I'm not. I'm in a meeting. Your cold calling doesn't work as it
Mm,
used.
mm,
You can't say you will go to Alice's office and you haven't planned
yeah.
with Alice. So even
Yeah.
if you push people to the sales, to the field,
Mm,
they will go today, they'll meet Alice. Alice was not ready. Alice was not prepared for you, or I listened to your pitch, but I'm not in my buying space.
mm,
Now, when your employees are well, embrace themselves, because when they embrace
mm,
themselves, they are starting to look at themselves with a certain level of seriousness. They will start
mm,
to care about the industry. They will start to
yeah.
care about their careers. And they will
Mm,
start to care about what they're putting out there about themselves.
yeah.
What happens is that elevates the profile of the
Mm,
employer.
mm,
So it ends up being a win-win for the
mm,
organization.
mm,
What I would say, if you, as an employer, you're new to this space and you're trying to get your employees to be personal, to be brand ambassadors, your brand ambassadors, the
mm,
first thing you need to do is train them to be experts.
mm,
Start with your employees and train them to be experts in their specific roles, because
mm,
then that positions the organization, as an organization, that positions the entire organization as one
yeah.
that
Yeah.
values expertise.
Mm,
And you will not be worried when your
mm-hmm,
team
mm,
is out there
mm,
speaking to people, because you know what they're
mm,
speaking, whether they're speaking to people online or
mm,
in their day, you will know
mm,
they're speaking things that are adding value,
mm,
because you're
mm,
trained to be experts.
mm,
So I would say, for an employer, embrace, allow your employees to flourish, allow them to do it, to be the experts that they need to be online,
yeah.
because that's where the world is headed. And then
Yeah.
when you consumer journey, if
Yeah.
I'm to wear the marketing hat for a minute, when you look
Mm,
at the consumer journey,
mm,
um, the customer will probably have been thinking to buy, not immediately. There are very rare instances the
mm,
customer will see a phone now and want to buy it now.
Mm.
They'll think about it, they'll go back, they'll probably want to do some budgeting process around it. Now,
Mm.
what you need, the reason you need your employees online and speaking to your expertise as a brand is
Mhm.
they're always in the mind of the customer they're
Mm.
always in the mind of the customer that these guys or company these guys do this, all
Mm.
right,
Yeah.
what their capability of the organization.
Mm.
Then when I am ready to buy,
Mm.
I, you will have done half the work for me.
Mm.
Yeah. So I will
Yeah.
either approach you as the
Mm.
customer,
Mm.
or if you find me in that space and it's
Mm.
Alice speaking, and I've always seen Alice speaking around such a topic in various forums,
Mhm.
I will probably be an easy convert for you as a salesperson.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Hmm.
That
So the
that's
first thing I
that's true.
say,
Mm.
it's please embrace it. Employers,
Mm.
employees, embrace it. It's a good thing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um. Then we have the other question, which is, what do what do employers need to do to help their employees build a personal brand?
So the first one is we spoke about it to some
Mm.
extent.
Mm.
Do a lot of training. Please invest in training, and there are many
Mm.
training organizations to train people on things about your expertise. And
Yeah.
then there are very many advocacy tools that exist.
Yeah.
But I want to caution both sides,
Mm.
because what
Mm.
happens with the advocacy tools is
Mm.
you're pushing your employers to push. And as a marketing expert, I love it. I want
Mm.
all the employees in the organization to push brand content. I'll be very, very happy when they do that.
Mm.
But
Mm.
don't let it not be like that. Let it
Yeah.
be to push their expertise, not always that everything. When I look on Alice's feed, all I see is brand, 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 brand.
Yeah.
What happens is I don't
Mm.
believe that person has
It's
expertise. I just
authentic.
know
Yeah.
those guys have a strong marketing department. Kudos to that marketing
Yeah.
department. Yeah, they're doing a
It's in
great
their
job.
KPIs. It's in their KPIs.
And that's why now we need to go back to how have we trained our people.
Yeah.
In fact, I always say sometimes it's even
Mm.
better you let the employees to start by even commenting in
Yeah.
industry, in your industry specific forums, with your
Mm.
industry specific what are they called, uh, online community. Yeah,
Mm. Mm.
you'd rather even start commenting than when somebody comes to look at Alice's profile, they say, hey, Alice has never done anything else other than push content. And it's
Yeah.
easy. And for marketing, we are happy we are meeting our KPIs. But now when
Yeah.
I look at it from the individual's perspective, that does not
Yeah.
work for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
we need to see some of
Mm.
Alice's thoughts on, remember now we said at some point, what do you know
Mm.
about the industry? So
Yeah.
what are Alice's thoughts on what is happening in the industry? Yeah.
Mm.
What
Yeah.
is what are Alice's thoughts
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Marianne, who is an
Mm.
industry expert?
Yeah.
Marianne has commented on a certain topic. What are
Mm.
Alice's thoughts on Marianne's topic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you
Yeah.
agree or disagree, it is fine. Some of these
Mm.
things, it doesn't matter. You don't have to align with the gurus of this world.
Mm.
It is how you bring out your message
Yeah.
to people across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And even going
I
back, because people who are not online, even going back to now,
workplace.
the workplace,
Mm.
you don't have to be online, but even in
Mm.
the workplace, are you those guys who we've been called to a meeting?
Mm.
It's a good meeting because all these stakeholders that you've mapped for yourself are there. Meeting took about
Mm.
1 hour. They were brainstorming wonderful things. They came up with wonderful
Yeah.
strategies, but nobody had Alice's voice.
Yes.
It's the same
Yes.
thing. Nobody had Alice's
Mm.
voice. Why didn't they hear Alice's
Yeah.
voice? How do you expect them to
Yeah.
remember you?
Yes,
That
yes,
is the
yes,
online version of the workplace.
yes, yes. I
Yeah.
like that. And there's this quote I keep repeating by Paul Mudora, who was CEO of CMA, and he was
Mm,
doing an engaged talk, and he said something that stuck with me since. He said, the quote was, make your expertise, how can your expertise be impactful if it is not accessible? Yeah. How can your expertise be impactful if it's not accessible? And for me, sorry, what that spoke to me is, you might be the best at your job, you might be great, you might be a genius, but if no one knows, if you don't speak up, if you don't ensure that you're in the spaces where those conversations are happening, what impact will you have? And I think
mm,
sometimes people are frustrated, but it's of their own doing. They're not speaking up. They're not giving their solutions. They're not,
mhm.
and a lot of times people have the solutions. I can remember specific times in my career where I sat there and I said nothing, and I knew what the solution was.
Yes.
And in that way, I deterred myself from growing. But now I'm very confident in not the fact that I'm a guru, because I'm not a guru, and I don't believe in gurus.
Mhm.
But I believe that I have something to contribute. Yeah. So that's part of personal branding, understanding that you have something to contribute, and then making sure that you speak up, that you can't be in a 1 hour meeting and not have something to say. Yeah. So I like that.
And,
I think
and
that.
if you don't have, if and let's assume your mind is blank, which I highly doubt, because sometimes what hinders us is just imposter syndrome. We think the
Yeah.
person sitting across the table knows more, and sometimes
Yeah.
really they don't. And
Mm,
but anyway, let's assume
mm.
your mind is
It's blank. Yeah.
completely blank.
Yeah.
Ask a question.
I like that.
Just
I
ask.
like that.
Ask a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to look dumb.
Yeah.
No, yeah, don't be afraid to look dumb. So just if you have nothing to, just ask a question.
Yeah.
Say something. Don't leave that room
Yeah.
without saying anything. Say something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I like that. Another thing that, as we go to the questions that have been shared in the chat, another thing that has come up very strongly is that as you're working your job, as you're doing your daily, your daily to-do list and on your objectives and all that, you have to also make sure that you have a bird's eye view of the industry and what's going on. Yeah, because that's very important for you to grow your brand. That's something else that came out as you're speaking. So we have David Mary. Hello, David. Is asking, how do you brand yourself when you wear many hats? I like that. How do you brand yourself when you wear many hats? I think the word is multi-potentialite. That's what we're calling ourselves these days.
So if the many hats are, it depends on how these hats are. If the
Mm,
many hats are conflicting, find your
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Find your one that adds.
yeah.
Find your, is it that 80-20 principle? Find the one that does 80% of the
The Pareto.
yes, that Pareto
Mm,
principle.
mm,
So if there are many hats that you find are conflicting,
mm,
find the one that you think will add the most value. And
mm,
that will mean also that even as you find that one, find the one that also speaks to where you want to go.
mm.
Because you also do not want to be wearing this wonderful hat that will
Yeah,
stagnate your life.
yeah.
In fact, there's a quote oh, I had the other day as I was listening to this lady, and she was saying, if you stand
Mm,
still for too long, you'll be run over. So you
mm,
need a hat that will progress you.
mm.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you, if of the many hats you have to put all those things to the table, do like a pros and cons of all these
yeah,
things.
yeah,
But if they are able to be married into one,
yeah,
find the synergies that help you, or the unique things that can be can be seen as one is like a unique advantage because you have the other.
yeah.
Sometimes if two things are complementing, then it means one becomes a unique, and it gives you a very good
Mm,
unique selling proposition. When you're
yeah.
like that, when you have two things that kind of complement each other,
Mm,
then you're able to create a very clear, unique selling proposition.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the other thing that I've found that, let me first start with, I found that sometimes people um, can't see the connections in their different areas, but a lot of times there are connections. A lot of times there are connections, because you see, at the end of the day, you're one person, and your values are probably most likely consistent all through. Your skills and your giftings and your aptitudes are consistent. Maybe it's in the expression of them, and the expression of them definitely carries through a theme. So I
Mm,
think the other thing that I would have to add to that is storytelling. Storytelling is your friend. And this is something that even I am working on the skill of storytelling. Basically, how can I tell the story of all these parts of myself in a cohesive way? Because I promise you, there's a thread that just runs through
interesting.
all those areas of you. So you just need to sit down
Mm,
and begin to see what is the story. So how did this lead to this? Why am I doing this? How does it connect with this? Asking yourself those questions and then telling a cohesive story through your branding. That's the other thing that I would have to say about that. And maybe I should give an example, not to be too theoretical. My background was in training and learning and development, but as I was doing the work, I found the thing that I love to train about most was careers. So
mm,
apart from each other, you don't see the connection.
mm,
You would not see
mhm,
the connection. But as I sat through and said, why is it that I really do love to create learning experiences and impactful learning experiences at that? But I specifically have a desire to create learning experiences in this area. So now,
mm.
even in my LinkedIn summary, you can see how I try to very I'm trying to tell the story of
Mm. And
how
you're
these
doing a
two
good job.
parts of me, yeah,
Mm.
how these two parts of me are expressed. And the thing is, we're human beings, so I'll be changing, and that's another thing. As you're changing, change your profile, change your story, and it's okay. People understand that. Yeah. All right. So we have another question from, I think it was Kate, who was asking. Yeah, I recently went back to employment for career growth. At what point should my focus shift to building me as a brand in my field?
I would say immediately start now.
Mm,
There's no
mm,
point waiting. As
mm,
soon as you go back to the workspace, start from the time you enter those doors, because that
mm,
is what will determine whether you'll be confirmed after the 3 months.
mm,
Yeah, it's a
mm.
small, it's not about, okay, so going online aside, in your workplace, start adding value, give
Yeah,
100%, speak
yeah,
up when you're called to speak up. So I
mm,
would say start now. Start if
yeah,
it's not a matter of saying, oh, CG, when I become this level, when I become this level, even with a little
mm,
experience, assuming you're in an
mm,
early career role, start
yeah,
building your brand now. Let people
yeah,
say that intern must be hired,
yeah,
because it's those things that um, you as a person consider important, that other people will
mm,
then consider important in you. If
yeah,
you yourself are not carrying things with weight,
yeah,
they won't take you seriously. And that is all part of your brand. How does the
yeah,
world see you? How do you stand
yeah,
out from the rest? And you
yeah,
always have to remember, at any given point, there's
mm,
many people who are like you. There's many people
yeah,
who studied what you studied. There's many people
yeah,
perhaps looking for, at any point, will probably two or three people looking for the same kind of role that you're looking for, who have the same similar kind of profile.
mm,
It is these extra things that will make you stand out. Going the
yeah,
extra mile, finding the extra skill. If it's a skill that you must do to prove to, like, actually, if we go back to that example, if you find your boss is not, doesn't like, say, Excel, and Excel is one that uses analytic, is able to analyze the
mm,
data visualization.
yeah,
That
yeah,
skill, figure out how to use that Excel like a
yeah,
pro, so
yeah,
that that becomes, like, to the department, that becomes your unique selling point. Yeah.
mm,
So
mm,
there's all these guys, then there's you who can do that plus Excel,
yeah,
you know. So figure
yeah,
out, is it building a skill that you must? What other additional
yeah,
skill can you build out that gets you
yeah,
to stand out in your
yeah,
current employment space?
mm, mm. And I think something that I'm hearing from that is sometimes it's the little things. It's
Yeah.
it's the little things. It's not big extravagant shows of you can contribute, you can relieve pain. It's small
Mm-hmm.
things like tapping into your ability to use Excel and using that to make it easier for your boss to communicate what you want to communicate. Great. So I think that the other thing that I'll probably add to that is I think sometimes when you're talking about building your personal brand, there's a misconception that you're beginning to build your personal brand. I think
Mm-hmm.
it should be clear that you already have a personal brand. You're just now reworking and looking at what your personal brand and reworking it to what you want it to be, because personal branding is basically people's perception of you. So you want to
Mm-hmm.
influence people's perception of you to align with who you who you are. Yeah, what your strengths are, what your unique abilities are, what your values are. You want to make sure that the story out there is the same with who you actually believe yourself to be. So when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to personal branding, Kate already has a personal brand. Maybe because of the transition, she's now having to rework the communication of that, of who she is, who she's coming back as, what are the things that maybe she's gained from her break, how can she leverage on that as something unique and different and something that brings value. So she already has a personal brand. It's just now to go back to what we said at the beginning, do the inner work to determine, okay, what do I stand for? What's my vision and what are my values? And then make sure that's communicated through the way you work, through your communication, through your relationships at work, and all that. All right, great. We are now at
And
one.
then, and then,
Yeah,
and just to finish,
yeah.
I think you've summarized it very well. But to finish,
Mm,
as she's coming back, she also needs to figure her story. Remember when you're
yeah,
talking about that storytelling, she
yeah,
needs to see in her line when before she started, she took the break, then
yeah.
she's now back. There's got to be the connections.
Yeah,
And in fact, I was listening to a lady who's in my line of work,
yeah,
and she was talking about how she got there
yeah,
and how she started. Initially, she used to be a historian
yeah,
who used to work in the museum.
yeah.
Uh, and now she got to a point where she figured,
Mm,
I like what, because she first went into advertising and client management and all those things.
mm,
And the transition was very hard for her.
mm,
But what she used to do while working at the museum, she used to do these small marketing activities for the museum.
mm,
But now, when she wanted to manage big brands in terms of an advertising agency and all those things,
mm-hmm,
most employers were telling her,
mm-hmm,
"You're not the right fit.
mm,
You've only worked at a museum,
mm,
so you're not sure you'd be able to." So she had to, and she was saying there's a particular employer who was candid enough
mm,
to say,
mm,
if I hire you and you flop,
mm,
it means I'll be asked, why did I hire such a profile?
mm,
Then it's my neck on
mm.
the line.
Yeah.
So she was saying that it is that point
Mm,
that made her go back
mm,
and say, what can my story be?
yeah.
And she came back with,
Mm,
I am able
mm,
to communicate for difficult brands, because a museum really is not an easy brand
mm.
to deal with.
Yeah.
She was able to say, I am able to communicate for um, a difficult brand. And so
Mm,
difficult brands became her
mm,
signature.
mm,
So you take a bit of what they're looking for, which is the communication aspect,
mm,
and now you bring what did you learn in your current role that
yeah.
you can seem like, are you if you spin it to them, you're gonna be adding value to them.
Yeah.
Because these things, and it's with every job,
Yeah.
unless you're in this technical kind of hard jobs per se,
Mm,
like a doctor, where you need some specific surgical skills.
mm-hmm,
Some of these other skills, most of them can be learned
mm,
on the job.
mm,
She was saying, yes, she did come in after the first 3 months, she immersed herself
yeah.
to learn, to being the best,
Mm,
because she knew she also needed to prove
mm,
her salt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I like.
Find your story.
Yeah. Find your story.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've come to the end of this because it was 1 hour. So and I love the conversation as always. Alice, I was writing notes, by the way. We're working with you, but there's always nuggets when we're working together and having a conversation. So I have my notes here, and I'll share some of these as a post probably today or later on. So to close this conversation, well, Alice and I would love to help you work in building your personal brand. And by building, now you know what we mean, reworking and just understanding the key fundamentals of your personal brand, that inner work that we talked about. So we're running a Power Your Brand masterclass for Standard for Growth and Career Kickstart. And some of the things we'll be working on are identifying your brand attributes, clarifying who your target audience are, those things that we're talking about, the stakeholders, identifying who are they, who are your stakeholders, then connecting your brand attributes to your target audience through a compelling brand message. So now that you understand what your brand is, what your values are, you understand the stakeholders and the target audience, how can you create a message that is compelling to them? Then we're also going to be looking at unlocking the power of your LinkedIn profile as a tool to amplify your personal brand. And we'll also be working with a photography studio to give you 2 professional edited photos and lots more. So basically, what we want to be doing through this session is helping you to rework your brand and give you the basics, the fundamentals, so that you can manage your brand. The workshop will be on the 15th of April. If you're interested, I'm going to share a link in the chat section of this live so that you can send us your name and your details, and we'll get back to you with more details on the workshop. But we welcome you if you're looking to leverage the power of your personal brand. Karibu sana. We are here to help you. If you have any other questions that maybe are career related or branding related, but you'd like to speak to us personally, you can message us. I think Alice, you're also available on LinkedIn. You can message us,
Yeah,
and we're here
always available.
yes, and we're here to support you. We want to see you grow and we want to see you flourish. Thank you so much. Any last words, Alice?
Uh, a personal brand is not something that you leave for when you're making a certain amount of money, when you're a certain age. It's something that you must start thinking about now. It's something that you already are, people already are saying something about you. You just need to be the one now to wing that perception to what you want them to say. Because imagine they always say, Alice is late. Ah, that's her. That's your brand, by the way. Or Alice is never late. We need to call her because she's 5 minutes late. So those are things that people are already saying about you. Now it's just time is it's now time to bring your expertise so that they are able to say, Alice is the expert in this. If you need this kind of expertise, speak to this person. So it's not something that you need to leave to when you feel you're an expert. You can, even to this moment when you're assuming you're a new professional, there's something that you know, there's something that you can bring to the table, and there's something that people can learn from you.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Alice. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for those of you who shared your questions with us. We are here to help. You can message us on our LinkedIn, and we have the link for the masterclass in the chat section, so you can just add your details there, and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely night.
Thank you, Marianne. And I think next time it should be the other way around. We'll be talking career.
Yeah, we will.
I'm sure guys have a lot of career questions. I know I asked you. Yes, so I know next time we talk career.
Yeah, so.
All right, cool. Thanks everyone for joining us.